welcome back to EMEA Masters semi-final. We are one step closer to finding our second finalist as Unicorns of Love Sexy Edition take it 2-1 up on Heretics. And honestly, it was a pretty close game and nail-biter start to finish.
Yeah, definitely. It was a messy situation, you know. It started one way, it ended another. It was all about the messy team fights. But the fact is that, you know, Unicorns of Love Sexy Edition had all the control during the first stages of the game. It looked pretty awesome, you know. They were pushing top, pushing mid, pushing bot. It looked amazingly for them.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel it all started with the teams were like a little bit more low profile. The game, the series on the line, the finals is on the line, and it was 1-1. So they slowed a little bit down in the early game until they started going at it. And I think it started with a bot lane double kill on the side of Unicorns of Love, of course, with Funky. Both teams were trying to find the openings, but I think this was the opening for the big brawl that we saw on the map.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I want to highlight Funky on Zwyroo. He was amazing coming into this game. And you know, Heretics tried to respond somehow by trying to pressure towards the top side. They found some openings. One team playing through the bot lane, the other team playing through another. This is the kill situation that you were mentioning, where Funky got really ahead. They caught Marlon off guard and capitalized in a 2-for-1 situation. You removed FLICKR as a win condition for these minutes, and this is what I was talking about. Heretics says, okay, you're trying to punish me towards the bottom lane, I'm going towards your top side. Venour gained a lot of time, and this is what FLICKR has been doing during the whole game, right?
I just really love the Koroshima play coming in instantly, though, from Heretics. We have them as a little bit of over-brawlers on the map, but this time I'm really glad that bluerzor saw the opening up in the top lane and is like, okay, if my bot lane is losing, we need to get mid or top ahead. He decided that Aibo was the strongest member of his team at that point, and I think he got him like 2 or 3k ahead at some point in the map. And from there on out, it was pure chaos. It was people looking for picks before the 5v5 because the teams did not necessarily want to go for this 5v5. We also have a replay right here. Thank you very much, production. Pete crosses a ward in the tri-bush. That's not seed, which means he instantly gets changed to seed and dies. And then I kind of want to play the carnival music because it was kind of like a carnival event where Heretics were like, well, we're 4v5. Instead of taking Baron, we're just going to run them down.
I want to highlight that very same play starts with Peach being at Heretics' side red buff.
Yep.
And he stood there for a while. Now Heretics, in my opinion, they went a bit of greedy. They want to chase, they want to take those kills, and they grab a bunch of them. But the price, I think the price was not worth it. It was a Pyrrhic victory for the side of Heretics because yes, they didn't capitalize into that Ahri. They rotate towards the Baron Nashor now, really thinking they can do that, but they can't because the play was so long. The Peach was back and ready to kill them and sweep them away from the neutral objective situation. And the Baron Nashor goes towards Unicorns of Love.
And I'm actually extremely surprised right here because you lose your jungler, you kill enemy jungler, you should instantly turn it into Baron. They overchase for kills as you mentioned, and later on Unicorns of Love managed to finally get the Baron for themselves, and it results in another overextension, this time by Unicorns of Love. They have the Baron, they overextend towards the bot side of the map, and what do you know, the very fed Gnar actually capitalizes on them.
Yeah, the very first Gnar also, I wouldn't say signature pick, but he plays that a lot. This is this situation we were discussing about. Yeah, they are pushing with the Baron Nashor, and we saw plenty of teams just throwing a bait in these situations. Aibo charges the Fury, he jumps forward with the flash, ult several people towards the wall, and those are several shutdowns and kills for Flakked onto this Jinx. She gets excited, but they still lost things after that team fight. They won the situation, but they lost mid because there was the Fiora.
And I feel like this is another story where the Heretics
one.
damage graphs do not tell the entire story because they lost yet another game that they were ahead in the damage meters. But this tells you a lot about these particular games because they're very bloodthirsty. There's a lot of damage being thrown down in the team fights. And it all ended up in this particular game with one team fight, which was a brawl, a 5v5 to end it all. Now, seeing all this fire and the passion coming in from the Superliga, Noah, what does it mean for the reigning champions, to come back? It took so long for Superliga to get back on top back in summer 2022. They're back, but their backs are against the wall.
Yeah, definitely. Their backs are against the wall, and I really want to see if they can thrive, like the last year they thrived into this kind of situations because, yeah, it was it took us a very long time, not only to get back the title, but getting back to finals. The last team from Superliga getting finals before Heretics was Giants back in 2019. That wasn't the last time that Prime League team also got to finals, because they made finals in 2020 with Game Legion. But that finals were crazy between, I think it was Big versus Giants. And it happened like 3 years until we made it again. 3 years. I don't wanna 3 years. I don't wanna wait 3 more years to get to be finalists again in EMEA Masters. So guys, I mean, I threatened you after the finals, and this is true. I threatened both my teams. I threatened Bowling Star Riders and threatened to Heretics. I threatened you that you had to make it to the semifinals, but that threat is extensible to the finals. You have to make it to the finals. You can let me here dying alone for you.
So it's an extended threat.
It's an extended
threat, so they can make it to the finals.
They have to.
They have to.
They
okay,
have
of
to,
course, for Unicorns of Love, this is very important as well. Prime League has not necessarily seen a lot of success in the past years, and honestly, getting 2 teams over in the semifinals, it would be absolutely heartbreaking if they couldn't get 1 team over in the finals.
I think this is, no matter what happens in this series, even with Unicorns of Love's Expedition winning, with Unicorns of Love's Expedition losing this series, I think this is a great EMEA Masters for the Prime League. They managed to grab both their seedings into the semifinals. They managed to pull those teams into the semifinals, and this didn't happen in a long time. We are somehow, coming into a new era when it comes to the ERL system, with TCL coming in, with the Arabian League also coming in, and new powerhouses, new forces are jumping forward. Those forces may be the TCL and the Prime League, which I kind of feel that Prime League is facing like a new bloom that we didn't get to see since 2019, for example.
Absolutely agree with you, and it's lovely having the new regions here. Of course, the new region, the TCL, is the last boss that's already waiting in the finals, in the likes of Istanbul Wildcats. And let's chat a little bit. We're going to have a little bit of a delay, so let's chat about the picks that have been so instrumental in terms of victories for both of our teams. If our level production can put up the draft for ourselves as well to see, it feels like it has a lot to do with mid-jungle pressure. You see the Wukong and the Ari here. On the other side, it feels like even though the Victor has been a gatekeeper every single time installing the game, it hasn't necessarily been that winning pick, because it doesn't just enable that mid-jungle that we want to see from Heretics.
But it happened for Heretics in this game, but it happened also for Unicorns of Love in the last one. We were discussing about, victory stalls you the game, it allows you to make it longer, but in the end, it didn't win the game for you. So right now, I'm watching this composition from the side of Heretics, and I'm watching that. I'm conceding pressure. This is like an armistice between the both teams in the early stages of the game. We are not fighting, but Heretics is conceding all the lane prio for the sake of Unicorns of Love's Expedition, who they do have kill pressure. They do have the Ari. Something we were discussing in the pre-show is the importance of Ari when it comes to the draft and how well she is paired with another jungler. It's a tag team situation, and it was a tag team victory for both Peach and Mask when it came to this game. On the side of Heretics, I'm just perceiving, inaction in the early stages of the game by this draft.
And I just got a little bit of a cheat call from our producers. Heretics have chosen to go over to blue side. And from what we've seen so far, Unicorns of Love don't seem to want to ban the Jace over on the red side. They would rather face it and deal with it. Are we expecting potentially a Jace ban this time around?
I really don't know. I mean, you kind of feel that Heretics is respecting a lot Mask Jace. I mean, they must respect that Jace, but they've proven themselves being able to play the Jace, maybe with better results in the mid lane, but they can pick it for themselves. It's been first pick, if I'm not mistaken, in the first two, twice in the first two games, and maybe another time is going to be a first pick for Heretics. It's been a win condition for sure for them, but they have to execute it well.
Yeah, and I feel like Jace, Wukong, Sejuani has been the name of the game. Maokai has been permabanned for the entire time. What do you specifically want to see? You're coming from a bloodthirsty region. Your region is playing right now, backs against the wall. They need 2 more back-to-back games to win. What would be the most iconic champions to play? Because if we take, again, the Mad Lions approach, where everyone is playing their comfort, what do you want to see that mid-jungle duo on?
I mean, the mid-jungle duo, if I'm thinking about iconic champions for Heretics players, I'm thinking about bluerzor's Nidalee, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay.
I don't think that is going to happen. For example, I really appreciate Zwyroo on that victory. It's kind of a signature pick, but I really think that him on Syndra is a better player. He's so efficient when it comes to the Syndra. But if you want to go to the brawl situation, if you want to go for blood, then you're gonna go for the 5th game versus Team GO composition. You're gonna go for the Draven. Maybe you're gonna go for another hook support. You want to go for those early aggression situations. What I don't want to see from Heretics is that fear that I'm perceiving. You know, the fear from taking fights, the fear from snowballing, the fear from brawling. It's ironic, but I kind of see them, doubting a lot.
Well, we are ready to go into game number 4, which could be the ending game in this series, and Unicorns of Love could go in with 3-1. But Heretics backs against the wall. They picked out the Draven and the Pyke last time in their quarterfinals. Can they do it again? Will they bring out the aggression? Let's find out. Over to you on the caster desk.
Thank you very much, Trouble and Noah. It's a great little analytical segment from them, and we are getting ready for what could be the final game of the EMEA Masters Spring Semi-Finals. Unicorns of Love looking to make the finals, play up against Istanbul Wildcats, of course. Heretics need to win the next 2 if they're going to be able to defend their title in a couple of days' time.
We're looking at you, mate.
Really?
Yeah.
I was too busy reading the prompter.
I will read the prompter when it gets to reading the prompter.
Sure, I bet.
It's not there yet.
Nope, that's fine.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the teams at all?
Yeah, down for it. No, I think for sure today's matchup has been a bit too scrappy for probably either team's liking in the terms that it's been utilized. Like a lot of them would probably have wanted cleaner gameplay, and I think some of it either comes down to, well, actually both teams being kind of good at their objective setups, but it's what follows afterwards that at times become a bit dicey. Then there is times when the objective setups isn't that good, but I actually think as a general thing, specifically around the Drake, for whoever's been red side, has been really good at getting aggressive vision in the red side jungle, just across the big Drake pit, and actually just have a good setup for the Drake, but then fail on the execution of it.
Yeah, I think for me as well, away from that slightly, but definitely derived, I feel like the pacing of the game has been maybe a little bit, in this weird way, it's too slow, but like slow in the ways where it makes sense, but then too slow when they have to be picking up pace.
Here's what happens. So I think actually in the early game, they are good at being, well, as soon as a skirmish presents itself, high-paced, where it's like it starts here, they get their few first objectives, and then we reach the mid-game state when it's about that mid-lane turret or whatever you want to do afterwards, invade on camps, where not a lot happens, and we're kind of forced to wait for an objective to spawn before we really get more of the action.
Yeah, well, we'll see if we get more action in this 4th game of the day. Now, I do have some news to inform you all of. There was an exploitation of a bug from Heretics, despite having received specific notice from league officials beforehand not to do so. So Heretics have lost the phase 2 bans in this draft phase. Obviously, that will change things up. And we'll see how Heretics decide to adapt their draft coming into this.
You need to stick the first 3 here, even going as far as thinking like, do you want to do a 3rd ban as a predictive going into what you already know you're going to 3rd pick for yourself, and then into the 2nd ban phase? But for now, Unicorns of Love, definitely the favorites now.
Yeah, definitely leans things over towards the Unicorns a touch. It's a weird double-edged sword, right? Less bans can mean more powerful picks up and available, but also for the side of Heretics, depending on how this draft actually starts up for them, it could mean, less protection bans towards one of the first 3 picks.
I mean, that's what it's going to be, right? Like they've gone Olaf, Xayah, Wukong. These are their traditional first phase bans. Now, we'll have to see how they decide to adapt their picks. Like, do you go just safer? You can't pick something that can be counterpicked on 4-5 because you can't get any bans between 3 and 4. So, be an interesting one to see. Unicorns will get rid of the Jace to round things out here. And Heretics on the blue side. Could go Jinx, could go Sej.
We've seen a lot of the Wukong as well.
Wukong too.
Yeah, I think that's been the first pick-worthy champion so far for today's matchup, and will be what we're seeing again.
Yep.
Sejuani now for Peach, I presume, plus likely Jinx, or perhaps even the Zeri. I think it just makes the most sense.
You're bold with your predictions.
Who would have thought
today?
Who would have thought?
I know. No, not me. Not me.
I'm snoring. I know, but
we went from Lucian, Nami, Zeri, Lulu to now Jinx or Zeri. Every game.
Yeah.
Jinx
Actually,
or
I prefer
Zeri.
this.
And he left open though.
yeah,
Was banned by Unicorns on both blue and red side so far throughout this best of 5. And you go for it. Can be mid, can be support. Aphelios as well worked for Heretics when they were on the blue side before for FLICKR. They funneled him a huge amount of gold.
And actually, Annie with Aphelios feels so good as well to play,
like
just because of the speed up as well. Now, can be flex into the mid lane. I think Mask is quite happy with playing the Galio matchup into the Annie in the mid lane as well. So, for now, let's see where they want to put those bans. They know that Annie is a flex, but top is still available and seems like the safest option to ban Ibo's champions away.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I love the fact that they go towards the Galio, right? We kind of asked for this adaptation when they were on the red side again, but they went towards the Cassante instead. This time around, going towards the Galio. Now they have the confirmed very strong 2v2 in the mid-jungle. They can R5 Venour's pick up on the top side, so it's always a strong side matchup. And they know, you know, if you blind the support, as long as you don't go Nautilus, right, to get Braumed on, you kind of don't care. I mean, you have the option to ban it away here if you don't want to deal with it.
That's the thing. You can just ban Braum here yourself. There's still one other options we've seen from Ibo. It's mostly just been the Jays and the Gnar, hasn't it? And then the Gwen, of course. So could speak to the fact that they're looking for Cassante, but that's the problem then, because then you can't actually say, hey, let's ban Cassante. So just going to have to let them get away with that one. They can rotate the support pick all the way down to 5, seeing whether Annie is really going to go, and then pick the most favorable matchup for Lekcyc as well.
The game has been so defined by who gets ahead in the bot lane. Like whoever has won bot lane or been the first AD carry to get a couple of kills tends to win out the game. Last game was a little bit of a mess in the mid game, and Venour on the Venour could do some other stuff, but across the course of the 3 games we've seen, 2 of them were defined by which AD carry is more fed. And so making sure that you have that blind support pick for last so that you can have a good bot lane matchup, I think makes the most sense.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Medic. And I think that the mid-game skirmishing power of this trio of tanks and bruisers inside the Sej, Cassante, and Galio is just such a hard wall to knock down. And so far, Heretics, via the Wukong, they weren't able to do it in game number 1. I'm going to go towards Tahm Kench. I like this adaptation. I feel like it does provide you a pretty big layer of safety.
I am looking at, though, who's actually threatening the Jinx right now if Funky's not overstepping,
it's
right?
Wukong Anti-Flash, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it's going to be.
You could, in theory... no, but then you get Braumed on. I was going to say you could go Ornn, but...
You get really
you just
Braumed on.
You get really Braumed on. Actually, yeah, Malphite is a good angle instead.
So where'd you go for your unicorns? If this Malphite gets locked in, you need a little bit more protection perhaps for your Jinx. You could look towards a Thresh if you want to just get that Lantern, but then he still has to cleanse out away from the Anna's stun, or...
Now, I'm obviously with 2 support players.
Oh, Zilean.
Do you just go something that's hyper utility here?
I think enchanters are so free
Lulu.
to blind pick Tahm Kench.
Yeah, like
and the
Zilean,
only thing
Lulu.
that's stopping it is the fact that Lekcyc doesn't usually play the enchanters too often. Most of the time, we actually see him go on champions. Like one of the melees or like one of the Braums here. I think it's not the best option, but I think for Lekcyc as a player, it might be the most comfortable option.
It's one of those, an A-tier champion, when a player can only play into C-tier, is a C-tier champion.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if Lulu or Zilean was better here. Lekcyc's Braum is better than his Lulu or his Zilean. So pick the Braum. It means that obviously there is still some threat on Funky, the Malphite ult, the Annie Flash Tibbers, the Cyclone coming out, but if Funky can play far enough back, the Braum shield will mitigate a huge amount of Heretics damage.
Yeah, well, actually, it will only mitigate Flakked because the Braum shield doesn't
Which is the majority of their damage.
No, you say that, but when bluerzor's coming in with the Divine Sunder and he's flashing forward with the Tippers, that and Malphite as well, if there's no flash on Funky, the Braum shield won't actually mitigate too much. The best peel you have is the ultimate to then slow them up and hope that he can get out of it. But the shield itself is actually not the biggest peel value here.
Yeah. Ibo's ultimates and just generally Heretics' ability to actually find the backline is more or less just going to be the entire game.
Yeah, it's rapid fire seconds for the Jinx. You know you want to be as far away as possible.
Stopwatch on 3rd component just because you can maybe break the game with it. Yeah, I mean, I think Unicorns, this is very much a core identity composition for them, right? They had practically a copy-paste of this comp, if not, I think 1-for-1. I think they got every single champion. I think the only difference is maybe the AD carry. From game number 1. So we know what they want to do. It's more about the adaptation here from Heretics and how they can actually break this formation that Unicorns have come so accustomed to finding themselves with so continually.
And let's get on to the ref for our 4th game of the day. Unicorns of Love, 1 win away from making it to the EMEA Masters Spring Finals. Heretics need to pick up 2 if they're going to close the gap and defend their title against the Istanbul Wildcats. For the moment, line of scrimmage drawn. Lekcyc and Funky gonna walk in here and will get themselves a ward down.
Definitely. And let's see if there will be any counter respond over on the other side. Some early tracking of the junglers was quite pivotal in our first game, actually, in terms of, I believe it was bluerzor back then that was the only one who was spotted, and they had a hard time tracking Peach in terms of where he was going to be on the map. And for now, no one's actually getting aggressive with division. We're seeing some wards down towards the bottom side on the blue side here, but outside of that, nothing that's actually going to track the enemy jungler.
Yeah, bluerzor's ability to actually impact lanes here is going to be super crucial. And I feel like it's kind of difficult across the board. You can definitely attack Mask, I feel like, and just try and use it as an avenue to sort of shut down Unicorns of Love's mid, lane priority in the early stages and see what you can work off of with that. But I feel like until the level 6s come in, the opportunities to actually find proactive plays might be a bit limited.
Yeah, there's some good late ward coming through here while he knows no one is actually guarding it. But I even think if you gank Mask, he can buffer with the E so many times, right? So even if you land the stun, even if you land a knock-up, that can be buffered and makes it a bit difficult.
Also running the aftershock, so a little bit more tanky.
Oh, for sure,
The Galio, if you ever do go for that burst, and a lot of the damage that you would be ganking him with is that initial burst damage. You look down towards the bottom lane, culls a piece, as per usual for these AD carries.
For now as well, bluerzor has just done the red buff. They get information on that, but they won't actually know he's up towards the blue side already. So what he can do now is either take care of his topside jungle, pay attention to top lane, or start pathing downwards as soon as he's done this blue buff to be there as soon as he anticipates Peach is going for full clear and then potentially a bot side attack.
But you can pay attention to the top lane? I just didn't realize that was possible in this series,
Nope, it's not going to happen. I tell you right now, after he's going to path bot lane to
down
match
towards
Peach on the full clear,
yep.
That's exactly what's going to happen. I don't think there's much value in paying too much attention to the Malphite either.
Especially since Ibo just wants to get tanky. We talked a little bit about this the first time the Unicorns ran this draft, but it is a very Jinx-focused draft. Like, she is the majority of your damage as the game goes on. Obviously, Galio can put out quite a bit of magic damage, but it's all about whether Funky survives through the fights and whether or not he is able to start to really fire away with those rockets.
I think really good adaptation of Peach, just walking into the Raptors, probably thinking to himself, well, we haven't actually seen him path straight towards them, so I'll just come in here and get them for free.
all of the mini ones as well.
That's big, that's big.
This is actually an adaptation from game 1, because if you recall, Peach actually ended up going towards the Wolves instead. He's being chased down. He's got red buff on him as well. He's just dead.
I mean, it could be Q flash, but the flash from bluerzor is enough to get him.
Well, the initial adaptation was great. The part where he got chased down and killed, not so fantastic though.
Mask using the taunt, actually uses the E forward here as well. And Zwyroo has the stun. bluerzor's coming in from the side, doesn't have flash, of course. Winds of War is dodged. bluerzor with the Nimbus strike.
Q-ring
goes in. Not quite in Q. Well, he is, because Mask dashes across in front of him. And Mask is able to escape.
Well, that's first blood over to the Wukong, and we've seen what Wukongs can do with gold today already.
Just the greed for the small one with the Q afterwards is really what makes it difficult. And while you have the aftershock, as soon as the aftershock is down, that's where you have to change
Molten shield as well.
And then the shield for the speed up. You're completely correct, Medic.
Like that Peach also, I guess, it's a bit awkward to turn back around and proc the, the 4th auto. So I think you're in a bit of a catch-22. Anytime you use your Q aggressively like that, you're probably just getting run down, and he is run down.
Yeah, I think it was harder though for bluerzor to continue to actually counter jungle on the blue side, because we saw Funky as well had the move on bot side. He was moving up towards the mid lane actually, so bluerzor probably would have liked to see if he could get enemy blue buff there, but wasn't able to due to the state of bot lane.
Better not to be greedy in these sorts of situations. All it takes is giving Funky a kill, overstepping, and this composition comes online for Unicorns. But the AD carries have had their backs. Abyssal Voyage, that's from Darkness. Justice Punch away from Mask. There's the taunt. He has the flash. Stun still going to connect. Tongue Lash coming in as well. One more auto as they look for the stun. Zwyroo goes in and gets in. Peach trying to turn it back around, but he can't get those permafrost stacks on. And Heretics, 2 kills to the good.
Yeah, and Heretics really just identifying mid lane as the point of attack. You were calling it out earlier, Jamata, and this time around they find it.
I just think limiting Mask's ability to find mid lane priority generally can limit Unicorns' Love's options as a whole for a very long time. Now, I will say things will get difficult once a level 6 comes in if they're not actually attacking Mask, right? So it has to continually be Mask as long as they're not overstepping and then getting caught out by things like the Great Glacial Prism once that's online, or just not tracking Lekcyc well enough. So that's going to have to be the goal for Heretics here. That's another W from Darkness.
Goes in. Lekcyc puts up the Unbreakable. Concussive blows on Marlon. Will get the stun, but he has that thick skin to heal up just a little bit. The reason we keep shouting out of vision, by the way, is if the Tahm Kench, when he uses his W, isn't in vision, you don't see him coming up, surfacing underneath you. And it makes it very tricky to dodge.
Cool little thing, though. There is actually an audio cue that you still hear if it comes out of vision, but you're near enough to it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Today I learned.
Today you learned, yeah. It's, you play against enough Tahm tops, you start to hear it. Anyway.
Look at this. Mid move first from Zwyroo as well.
Mask has
Funky
6.
has cleanse, has flash underneath the tower. No one tanking it as of yet.
Oh, God.
Lekcyc trying to get away.
Mask has
Venour
6.
is here. Mask has 6. But you go in straight away. Zwyroo goes in with the Tibbers. They're looking for the damage. Lekcyc so low, the Ignite's going to tick. And they do manage to get him. Zwyroo, though, is going to get locked up with the Permafrost, and that's another kill that we gifted over to Mask. Funky was looking for it, but couldn't quite find it. In the end, a 1-for-1 trade.
Yeah, and I think you really had to find the pickup initially there before the enemy team came around. Mask had that ultimate. We talk about the tempo advantage that it actually gains you as a Galio, but also just Peach, who was coming off the reset, was making his way down towards the bottom side throughout that entire setup of the dive. And when you couldn't do it on the first wave, well, when the second wave came around, Peach came with it.
Yeah, everything just falls in place for Unicorns on this defense, right? Like, the minion dematerializer, minimizing the wave a whole bunch. Flakked accidentally tanking tower. Heretics just botched the execution. There's nothing else to say about it.
I think it wasn't accidentally. I think he had the gravitum. He wanted to line it up
did he try?
immediately,
Right, yeah.
Have the proper layering of the CC, and then, yeah, when the teammates finally come around, Peach, Mask, easy to kill up.
The Unbreakable catches it as well, because it's a projectile.
Of
so
course.
Because the Braum steps in, puts down the Unbreakable, I think the gravitum didn't get onto Funky, whether it would have been applied or not, obviously, but there's those little interactions that can be difficult, and it's a reason Braum is quite difficult to play into sometimes, as the red buff here is stolen by bluerzor. We see Marlon roaming as well towards this top side of the map, just to protect his jungler.
Up towards the top side, Ibo.
Ghost from Venour. Ibo pops the ultimate to get away, still has the flash, so he is safe as houses.
30 seconds on this Rift Herald right here. You can see they've moved Marlon up as well. Does not have the ward item just yet, so because of that... Oh, did I say Dragon? I mean Herald?
No, you said Herald.
Oh, okay, there we go.
That's fine.
Dragon down towards the bottom side, but since there's no wards, you don't get that extra deep vision, but he did drop pink wards, I believe, just to set up a potential Herald change, take on the top side, especially when they see this Drake going down.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Unicorns just doing a really good job of just sectioning off the map. Right now, Funky's going to get 2 plates at the very least. Flakked's going to be forced back off a fair amount of the CS. And the gold is effectively already up-traded by Unicorns before the Herald has even been started by Heretics.
Well, it will be started now.
Yeah.
And with that information, they're just going to continue doing it. Peach can't really cross-map, or Peach can't really move up towards the other side of the map now. So it is just going to be an exchange of neutral objectives between the two.
And in the end, Heretics will have to use the... Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Heretics will have to use that Rift Herald effectively. Their lead at the moment sits on Zwyroo in the mid lane. 2 kills to the good, 600 gold ahead alongside bluerzor, who's got that 600 gold lead. So I think the question really is like, how much more can you harass Mask in the mid lane? And if you can't harass him enough to kill him and start taking plates in this mid lane, how quickly can you move Zwyroo into other lanes? And even if you do, can you deal with the Galio coming in to answer you?
That's the thing as well, because in a normal match, we're just talking about mid lane pressure into you move, into you make a play. But you can't do that when Galio's the mid lane, and that's why he's been such a priority from Unicorns of Love, not just in this game, but also in their quarterfinals when they played that. And one thing is playing around cooldowns. If you bait out the play at first, then call it off, that's going to take some discipline. But another thing, of course, is if you can move that 3-man unit, as we've seen Heretics attack with now, come in, and specifically when bluerzor finishes up that Divine Sunderer, so they actually have the damage to take him down from the mid lane.
Forget the analysis, man. I think Heretics just need to full send it mid and just never let Mask play the game.
That was kind of my analysis as well with the third one,
I know.
But I want the Divine Sunderer first.
You do want the Divine Sunderer. I feel like...
agree on that?
Yeah, I feel like, honestly, Wukong is such a strong champion that as long as bot side doesn't have priority for Unicorns, they can just consistently make this play happen.
The problem is, so far, bot side has had priority for Unicorns for most of the game, apart from that dive.
So it feels like Heretics kind of have their hands tied behind their back until the items come in, right, I guess. So for now, with Unicorns having that first dragon, you expect them to put priority on the next. It's actually just about tracking bluerzor and making sure you know where he wants to potentially put the Herald down. Ibo.
So yeah, he's just trying to clear the way before the Demolish Pot could come out, because he knows Venour gets the tower plate if the Demolish Pot comes out. The Demolish happens, Venour gets the plate, and in the end it's just ultimate traded in.
But I mean, it's perfectly fine, because there's no objective for the next 3 minutes.
You know what? No one's going to come top. Let's just be real, guys. No one's going to go top. So does it really matter? No, not really. And Ibo just really doesn't like Venour getting any gold, and I don't necessarily blame him. He's probably getting a little bit bored up in the top side. Do you know what I call it, actually? When top lanes get bored? I call it Darius syndrome.
Okay.
Because I feel like Dariuses seem to be the kinds of players in the top side where it's like, if they don't get a kill either before 6 or like at 6, they just start doing stupid stuff.
It's melee madness.
It's melee
support
madness.
Yes,
Yeah,
okay, cool.
yes. But for top laners.
We can call it medic. Like, whenever it gets to level 6 and I'm playing Nautilus into a Lulu and we haven't killed that champ yet, I'm like, I'm going. I don't care if the jungler's hit.
I feel you.
Mad medic syndrome.
We'll see if Lekcyc and Funky feel the call of the fight. He said they will just back away. Don't need to go in, don't need to fight, can just continue to scale, have an 800 gold lead here on the Jinx.
Well, they have the setup for it with the Graviton, but I think that's really what they're looking for here as well. So if they can get it down, they do, but I mean, then, you know, they're just backed up and now they're no longer in kill range.
That's a little bad from Heretics. Marlon should have checked that bush before bluerzor spent all of his time coming in. They might just be heralding anyway, and that's what they're going to do. Peach is trying to come across. Zwyroo's going to do the same. Because it blows down onto bluerzor and already down to 250 HP. The Unbreakable coming out. Marlon chunked away as well. I don't think
he did.
I mean, no, maybe he did because the gold has turned back a little bit, but Funky's going to try and turn the damage back. Flash forward by Lekcyc. Preach going in as well. Marlon locked up underneath the tower, but will be able to escape, and in the end, not much happens. The Rift Herald came down, Peach was able to force them out. bluerzor going in again, there's the Galio, Hero's End just coming out, bluerzor flashes across the wall. The knock up onto Marlon, but Funky is not here. The double taunt into the Winds of War is enough to sink the Tahm Kench. A Tipper's counter used there, but Mars so tanky already with the Rod of Ages.
Yeah, I mean, Unicorns again, they just have Galio in their back pocket. I was going to say, in the extended, they could push this wave in, maybe even dive if people try and stay for the wave itself, but it just happens above the tower. Mars comes down and more kills follow into the pockets.
And this is why we wanted Heretics to attack on the mid lane instead of attacking for the bot side, because even when you move with priority, like we saw from Zwyroo here, it just doesn't matter. Galio mitigates tempo. He completely neutralizes it. And once again, that means that Unicorns of Love gets a favorable skirmish out of the Galio.
Yeah, and no Annie ultimate, no Cyclone, no Moonlight Vigil for the fight in 30 seconds around the Chemdrake. See the Rift Herald go down. I think Flakked does get gold for this.
I mean,
Didn't see it
that's
pop
hard
up.
to see in that replay.
There's no gold on this, so he does step forward for it, has to burn the flash, and underneath the tower, Peach just looks for a little bit more.
Yeah, doesn't find it though, unfortunately. But
this is the overextension from the red Heretics.
It's just too much. It's just too much. You have to expect it.
Even gets himself in there as well from the blast cone while bluerzor is flashing himself out.
It's just strange. It's just a strange sequence from Heretics. Like, you should just know that. I'm just being real. Like, it's one of those things where you've played against the Galio already this series. You should just expect this to happen.
Reminded me of Venour Blanc and Glass Onion right there.
Oh, a little bit awkward for Venour there.
Yeah, I feel like Ivo had a very small window to just ult him underneath the tower, and maybe Venour would have fallen.
I think he didn't actually realize how far back he would track.
There we are. There's the ult. And Tofu Strikes looking for the knockup. Venour, though, a huge amount of healing in this form. And Ivo realizes he kind of lost out on that trade. Peach is on his way up here, so is bluerzor. Lekcyc and Funky going to join the party in just a second. Ivo locked up underneath the tower, flashes away, but the chase is on. Abyssal Voyage forward. Marlon does have the knock, and he eats him in the face of the Super Mega Death Rocket, but the Flame Jumpers come down, and Marlon's already stunned up and locked up and down.
Funky.
And the chase comes out as Funky looks for another, flashes away from bluerzor. The Cyclone locks him up for a second, but the Moonlight Vigil not going to do too much from Flakked. It's over. The Jinx has a triple. And now Unicorns of Love Sexy Edition can taste finals.
And now it's the mid lane pressure that mattered. They had Funky and Lekcyc in there. They pushes it in immediately, then moves up towards topside. Flakked, stuck still collecting the wave, is late to the plate on topside. And then, as you said it, triple kill to Funky. Just out of nowhere in a play where we're finally attacking topside, but just brought in every single member, didn't it?
Do you know what saves Ivo here? His passive comes back up at the start of the dive. Otherwise, he'd probably be dead. Marlon eventually comes in, just eats him out. I've got to say, the start of this is really well played from Heretics, but there's just more numbers and more damage. Funky gets the first, Funky gets the first reset into the second, able to flash out and then get the third. And Flakked being late, like you said, of having to collect the wave, means that he's not able to potentially play cleanup.
Well, the net gain for Heretics is they do get this Rift Herald because of the reset timers from the Unicorns of Love Sexy Edition. They did get the last dragon as well, so they evened out that score, but a 2,000 gold lead now has been established for Unicorns. You can see that Jinx is at the top of the gold charts, and that is not a sight you ever want to see if they're on the opposing team.
Yep, so it's a rough one. Now up towards the top side, Heretics does own most of the map. You can see it from the vision. They have that Rift Herald. Gonna funnel some gold. Will actually just bring 4 members up here. They might be looking to continue with the push. No, they actually cancel it off. They see members in the mid lane. Ivo, as you say.
Oh, that's the tank. He's got a Sunfire cape already, but concussive blows for the first stun. Then they'll look for the second stun with the Permafrost. Abyssal Voyage comes in for Marlon. Funky keeping his distance. Ivo down to about a third HP. Unstoppable Force being used. Venour's on his way across, and the Glacial Fissure locks Flakked up as well, and he'll be killed for another double. Marlon trying to get Peach. He will in the end take him out. But the Unicorns are absolutely stampeding over this game. bluerzor has to use the Cyclone just to disengage.
Yeah, and in that choke there, it looked so good. If Heretics had the ultimates on Flakked and Marlon, they were 5, 6, 7 seconds of coming off cooldown. And unfortunately, Unicorn's able to punish that. And again, Funky just picks up more kills. 502, 600 gold bounty now.
Yeah, Kraken Slayer coming through with the value. Might be a tank, but no plated steel caps either. Those are the mercs. And with that, Funky's still able to cut through. Speaking of other tanks, let's see what this one does.
I mean, Hero's End just comes out, and Zwyroo realizes, even with Tibbers, your teddy bear can't save you from this nightmare. Venour gonna be able to get to the blast cone as well. And the Unicorns now well and truly in command of the game.
Yeah, once again, it's just a Galio effect on the top side there. Zwyroo even had the flash, but decided not to utilize it. And while he is a tank, that's a lot of CC, okay? It's the stun initially from the Sejuani ultimate, then it's the Flint Winter Spite, then it's the Chompers. And I actually believe that Sejuani passive comes up again later to actually get some stuns down. Maybe that's just from the rest of them, but yeah, super easy to clean up in this chokehold as soon as the Excited comes out.
Yeah, and you can see right here, as Marlon dies, boom. Devour comes back up, Moonlight Vigil comes back up, and it's just like, well, if they had those tools, maybe Aibo is actually able to reposition and just get out. Maybe more Chakrams come in for Flakked and he's able to actually dish out the damage, but just isn't able to, and overzealously giving Unicorns more resources and more gold towards the AD carry.
Maybe, we may never know, but right now they are gearing up for a potential setup on the Drake. There is 1 minute for it. You can see it now. Lekcyc recalling, needs more wards, only sitting on 1. Got pink wards right now in the inventory of Peach and Mask. Mask currently still up towards the top side, so probably just collecting 1 more wave before he's moving down towards the bot side. Does have to be careful of not getting cross-mapped, as bluerzor is up here as well, but should just be a standard setup around the Drake.
Yep, no reason for it not to be. Vision coming down. And Heretics, I mean, they're all on the top side, so it seems like they want to try and make a play up there. But realistically, Mask should be too tanky to be killed up there. Merc Treads, and of course the Aftershock.
Flakked.
Oh, hello.
Glacial Prism cleansed immediately, but Super Mega Death Rocket will come in. Flakked almost taken out there. Peach deciding not to extend any further. Didn't know where the rest of Heretics were.
Yeah, Lekcyc tried to cover on the top side there as well. I feel like he should have just stuck around with the AD carry. If enemy team wants to go top side, that's fair. You just keep attacking on bot side, but for now, he's the one holding mid lane. Of course, Mask doesn't have that ultimate just yet on Galio, so he can't join them yet, but Heretics in no position to actually contest this dragon.
Whole item down on your AD carry makes things very, very tricky for you. Lekcyc's catching the wave here. bluerzor and Zwyroo have been waiting in this bush for what feels like an age right now. Lekcyc puts down a ward, spots them with the sweeper, and is like, hey, I knew you were there all along. And that forces them to go away.
And the thing that just kind of sucks for Heretics, like compositionally, with something like this, you want to just go in, you want to send it on the Malphite, or you want to try and get a wombo combo, but Galio counters that out. Braum also stops any over-the-top damage from coming in. And subsequently, as Aipo's going to clear the wave again with his ultimate, for the side of the Unicorns, they can always play engage, and the only irritating thing they're dealing with really is the Devour. And I think the frontliners just kind of get out frontline by what Unicorns have.
Because you end up in a position, because Jinx is so ahead of the curve that the front lines are going to need saving at times in this situation, and that just makes it so that Tahm Kench doesn't have the same value as Braum will, because while Braum is defensive, offers so much more in a teamfight setting. Winter Spite, the ultimate as well. It's just going to be easier.
Tahm Kench can only save one person and puts himself in harm's way to do so. The Braum
Bit of a dilemma.
put down that Unbreakable once again. The Baron up in 20 seconds time if the Unicorns want to go that route. At the moment, looks like they're going the route of revenge, of vengeance. From the quarterfinals last year, it was a 5-game thriller where Heretics were able to pick up the win and in the end pick up the title. Unicorns of Love have never been to the EMEA Masters Finals. This could be their first time.
Yeah, might have been a thriller in the past, but this game could turn out to be a horror later on if they don't find their footing soon as well. Because Unicorns of Love, oh, I say that, Lekcyc.
It's fine.
Yep.
He's out.
Did have to burn the ultimate to be fine, but he was fine in the end. The problem is, the big thing is Glacial Fissure doesn't really matter, right? You have
so many other peel tools.
And you're not fighting for 3 minutes, right? Like, unless you want to try and force a Baron, just wait for the next Hextech Drake.
I wouldn't mind just loading into the Rift right now and just play the Jinx. Like, I think it's going to be a real fun time.
I mean, I would so hard if I did that.
Okay, fair enough, but I think it would be fun.
I'm a support main, man. I have support main mechanics.
I'm Ghoulborg and I'm the main character. I'll always succeed. indeed.
I mean, it would be a fun time. You're correct.
It would probably
it
be
would
fun.
be enjoyable.
Yeah, wouldn't it?
I just don't trust myself to not int.
I trust you if you don't trust
You know,
yourself.
I don't trust Gorbor to play AD carry.
Oh, that's fair.
I've seen him
You
do
know
it.
who I do trust to play
yeah.
AD carry?
Funky.
Funky.
I mean, you have to remember, it was him diving in on the Zeri in the last game around that dragon fight that basically won, or at least kept Unicorns in the game for them to subsequently win it.
I feel like as well he's earned it. Remember that game where he was 1-6 because they kept picking on him again and again and again and again? This is finally him getting to play the game.
It really is. On his way to that Infinity Edge, Unicorns setting up around the Baron right now. They have control of it. And control wards. I was just going to step up in the face of Peach. He can do that. It's a pretty big tank. I do wonder if Funky maybe would look towards Lord Doms before IE, but when you're this accelerated, more damage usually makes more sense. You don't really care too much about the Malphite, who has 1 armor item, 2 if you count the Aegis. And you know your front line will give you enough time to work through them. 3 items now for Funky. Let's have a look at how much damage he's done so far this game. He's topping the charts. Obviously, the top laners have a little bit of
the
that.
top lane doesn't miss because they hit each other,
Yeah,
they
it's
don't die,
handbag
they
fights,
come back.
right?
It's just, yeah, it's just like, it's inflated. It's just inflated in the top lane.
Just like you, Gorbor.
Oh,
Inflated.
but no, no.
Wow.
Come on. Venour looking for the tower down towards the bottom side. Heretics just trying to find whatever they can on the map, but they are now 5,500 gold behind. The Dragon up in 1 minute's time. The Baron's still a possibility for the Unicorns if they want to go for it. And Heretics looking for these death bushes. They get onto Peach. Not going to burn the Cyclone for the Sejuani.
They probably hope there was Funky coming around there, but seeing the Sejuani, I mean, you're not going to do a lot, are you? Have the Randium's, not Randium, Warmog's armor too, so
Yeah, we'll
probably even
regen.
heal it up.
Exactly. Now, for Unicorns, with this 3-item AD carry, I have always said 2 items, rule of thumb, AD carry, Baron, pretty easy. This one has an IE on top of the 2 items.
Yep.
So whenever Unicorns feel like it, they certainly can. I feel like, obviously, you just run the issue of, you know, being inside the pit against Malphite, against Wukong. So this should probably make Unicorns be quite hesitant and apprehensive about starting this up. And it could potentially give Heretics more room to maneuver in this game than perhaps they should actually be afforded.
I'll say it right now, just the general tendencies of this game would probably make them a bit scared to just flip the Baron immediately and then actually die in a team fight. We saw what Peach was able to do in the Wukong earlier. Probably don't want to repeat that. You are still set for dragon stacking, so with 15 seconds on the Drake, you're just going to have some vision around the Baron, so make sure you have vision if enemy teams go there.
Ooh.
Now,
Peach going to go in. Looks for the damage of the bluerzor, who just
Look at
jumps
Ivo.
away. Ivo towards the side here will be taunted up. You don't want to step too far forward. That's up on force. Immediately they dive in. Hero's just coming out to Funky as he tries to get away towards the back. He manages to escape. Venour coming in now to join the fray. All of Unicorns of Love have disengaged the fight, but here comes Mass as he looks for a little bit more. Ivo force low. Flakked still full HP. And the Unicorns manage to disengage.
yeah, but if you can extend this fight, then Peach is just going to regen up again with the Warmog's armor, and he's going to come back to the Drake area with full HP in no time. Teleports are off on Ivo and Zwyroo, but they don't have the ultimate, and that's a crucial part.
Those elements, they're the engage. So without them, turning is just pretty much impossible. Even though Unicorns don't have the ultimates, which are the big space buyers themselves, doesn't really matter. Like you say, Baron actually, I think, might be being gambited right now by Heretics. Venour, which is part of it, still has the all-out as well. So his skirmishing power still really, really high. The Dragon will go over to Unicorns, and Heretics unfortunately can't turn and try and make that Baron.
And one of the big risks for the Unicorns now is, though, their AD carry doesn't have Flash or Cleanse. And that Unstoppable Force, that Cyclone, that Tibbers are going to be back up well before the Summoners for Funky do come back up. I wouldn't be surprised if Heretics do just pull the trigger on a Baron and say, hey, maybe you have to walk into us. Maybe we can just force a fight that is kind of on our terms.
And I think that might be the call as well that needs to happen in the game, because if you just wait for the next 5 minutes, that's just going to be the next Drake again, and then you just lose that there, right? So they need to make something happen and actually punish the fact that those summoner spells are not there.
Funky going for the stopwatch for a bit more protection.
I think it's a good pickup. It's the best pickup you can go for. It's the only way. You just have to react. As long as you don't get hit by the Malphite ult, there's a chance for repositioning and turning around. Even then, I think it's going to be really difficult, but we saw there Funky for a very long time because of how zoned out and focused he was. The rest of the damage from Heretics was very present. The front line actually wasn't able to stand up for too long. Venour wasn't able to get onto Flakked as easily as he would have liked because the flash came out. It's definitely doable for Heretics, but they have to do it in this window where Funky doesn't have flash, and they also, I feel like, have to get the Baron in that same window.
Oh, Mask is actually going to solo up the Baron here.
Well, he's going to try to.
Funky's coming across. There's the TP from Ivo. And then just Venour going for Marlon. Ivo's joining the fray here. Marlon down to half HP, knocked back with the Intopus strikes. Glacial Prism coming out as well, but Funky can't step forward. You cannot step forward as the AD carry here, because bluerzor can always just dash in on towards that backline. Unicorns of Love using a lot, not getting a lot. Peach goes back in onto Ibo, double stun with the Tibbers. Funky still waiting. Peach down to half HP, and the Warmogs won't save you here. Unstoppable force use. Ibo now knocked back. Funky trying to open up from the side. Ibo locked down, but Venour is now in the midst of the fray, and he gets him out, and that's a couple for Heretics. A double for Flakked. The hero's entrance tries to disengage here from Mask. In the end, Heretics won't be able to fight too much more. Super Mega Death Rocket flashed away by Marlon, but in all honesty, that was disastrous for the Unicorns.
Terrible decision making. Let's see if they can actually get something on the board.
Oh, there's the taunt. Get excited. Funky Marlon next on the menu. The crit finds his mark. Flakked falls as well. All Heretics had to do was not be tempted by the big purple worm. But in the end, it's damn delicious for the Unicorns.
Oh, they get away with murder after that one as well, coming in to pick up the triple kill, because initially you get the TP. Be happy. This is so pointless. This is a fight against the Malphite that does absolutely nothing. Funky's still not in a position to actually hit. And I think actually Venour here, by ulting the Malphite out, just seals his own fate and saves Ibo for them to continue the fight on Lekcyc.
Yeah, and the issue is Venour, he's not tanky to the point where he can just stand in the middle of 5 members. So as soon as he does it, he gets one shot, and the turnaround is possible. Funky can never walk into that choke because he knows he will just get one shot, and it means that so much of the damage is just dead for too long, effectively. Eventually, however, Heretics overstep here and they give the resets over. And the stopwatch does save Funky in the extended.
It's a really difficult decision to make in the moment because you're riding that high of we just got a few kills on our Aphelios, we've just killed 3 of them, we can go for the Baron, but you just can't do it. You just can't risk it against the Jinx because all it takes is a single kill for her to get excited and start ripping through you. And now the Baron on the Unicorns of Love, and the game returns to the state it was in about 2 minutes ago.
It does, but this time around so much easier for Unicorns of Love to set up because of that Baron buff they have to actually get the pressure in those lanes. And 1 minute now for the Drake. I'm just gonna call it. They get this Drake, that's game over. Jinx already 3k ahead. Hextech on the slows that's gonna come out here in the team fights as well. Like it's just gonna be too hard to deal with.
It's big body bruisers, and I think with all of the Hextech Soul slows and just the general, you know, mosh pit that a lot of these team fights should turn into, it's gonna be too much to deal with. And I think you're right, that will be critical mass. I think they've practically already hit it, to be entirely honest with you. Again, if they can somehow manage to blow the summoner spells of Funky, it's possible, it's plausible, but you know, the last time took a miracle. They tried to find the window, they found it, but then, you know, they couldn't climb back out instead quick enough.
And last game, they're in a position like this where they stayed along too much for the mid lane, but this time around, should just go down on this one. 30 seconds till Drake. Afterwards then, just set up the vision, put yourself in that favorable spot for the Drake. There goes the mid lane turret. What will Unicorns of Love do with their resources now?
Funky has the G8 as well. Mask splitting down towards the bottom side with the hero's entrance, can join his team at a moment's notice. Peach trying to trade here with bluerzor. Ibo going in as well, but Funky tags him with the zap, and now Ibo stunned up for a second. Flashback, knockback, stunned up, locked up, devoured. The tank spit back towards his own base. Ibo will retreat, but the Unicorns get that ultimate out and can set up around the dragon.
And that right there is just a situation we talked about where do you actually have to use the Devour on the front line? The answer is yes at this point in time. Heretics push so far back into their base. Those are their borders of their country right now. And it's not looking good for Spain as they lose more and more land of the Summoner's Rift.
Not looking good at all. And Unicorns.
No one expects a Spanish Inquisition falling.
But for Unicorns, last year, summer, it was supposed to be their tournament. Out of all of the teams, outside of, you know, Heretics making the fairy tale run, outside of the LFL, they were the team a lot of people were expecting to make it to finals. This time, they're on the cusp of actually fulfilling that prophecy. Mask is going to eat a lot of damage here, but should be able to just eventually get away. The Rylai slow to make it quite obnoxious, but will do just that.
A different lineup, of course, for the Unicorns, but still Sheepy at the helm. Continues to guide his team.
Wow.
Yeah, cleanse away from Flakked. That's all you're really looking for there. The Glacial Prison. Peach's ultimate, a much shorter cooldown than the cleanse. Unicorns of Love do not have the Baron, but they do have the Hex Soul. And they have the win in their eyes. Currently, though, Heretics doing a good job of making sure this is only one lane of pressure. Their side waves pushed out. Top lane is all the way up towards the tier 2 for Unicorns. Mars trying to catch that bottom wave and pull it in, but for the moment, Heretics can invest 5 players, a very small portion of the map, to make sure their defense holds strong.
They don't have that Baron, so it does makes it harder now coming in and actually picking up the turrets.
Does it?
On Peach, stopwatch. Who's going to get here in time? The Flame Chopper's down, and Zwyroo is down as well. A godlike Jinx, and Bunky just steps back and lets his tanks do the talking. Marlon locked up, Super Mega Death Rocket, not enough to take him out, but the inhibitor does fall.
Bunky!
The GA blocked by the Unbreakable by Lekcyc. And now, Funky gets to keep his Guardian Angel. Lekcyc living up to that one. And Tofu strikes, knocks back Ibo as he jumps away with the Unstoppable Force, but Flakked is caught, the Devourer comes out. Heretics last stand, last defense. As the Unicorns start to step forward, they kill the clone. And alongside it, looks like they'll try and kill this mid lane in here.
The blood is in the water, isn't it? The Heretics right now, they are wounded. And Unicorns, they're surrounding them like sharks. First inhib goes down, second one gone as well. And like you said, Guardian Angel kept for Funky is just so crucial. Because he didn't even blow summoner spells in that exchange either, so the difficulty of killing him is still very much there. And Heretics, they lost the summoners on Flakked.
Yeah.
He's the one that's going to have to deal so much of this damage. And Heretics still have to hop over this mountain of actually getting on top of the Jinx.
And it's just going to be even harder now as well, because they're going to be put in their base for all the supers that's coming in from the mid lane and the bottom lane. There's 1 minute till Drake, or Baron rather, comes around. And when you have so much pressure on the map right now, as Unicorns of Love do, it shouldn't be a way to contest it. Like, their ways back into this game, they're so minuscule, and I just don't see it happening.
It's going to take an act of God, or perhaps the hand of Flakked, to get them back in this. A good flash stun from Zwyroo into an Unstoppable Force might be enough, at least to get the GA, but will the follow-up be there? A lot lies on the shoulders of the ex-G2 player. And he has consistently carried throughout the course of this tournament. Flakked has been a guy you can rely on in these positions. Last time he played Aphelios, we saw it just a couple of games ago. Absolutely shredded. And here's so much weight on his shoulders as Unicorns of Love start to push in at the bottom lane. Mask in mid has that hero's entrance to join. He's
Got the carry items, Runans, Lord Bombs, i.e. he's online. He can get the damage out, you can see it. It just has to actually be put out. Flakked.
Taunt coming out. bluerzor caught Ibo as well. Peach coming in from the side, and bluerzor and Ibo. Ibo locked up. He goes in with an Unstoppable Force, but Funky flashes it. Hero's Entrance coming out as well, and Ibo's going to be stunned once again. Zwyroo is down. Ibo short to follow as he's locked underneath the tower, and Flakked tries to do it all. He gets one, but he just can't get enough. Funky still alive, bluerzor down, and the Unicorns with the Nexus in their eyes.
With that fight, the dreams of the repeat for the Super League region will fall. Unicorns, they want to fulfill the prophecy that they should have fulfilled about 8 months ago. They will take down the Nexus, they will take down the final Super League representative, and they'll win the series 3-1.
Unicorns of Love marking leaving their mark for now on this semi-finals as well, making it all the way to finals, and 3-1. Better than their quarterfinals as well, which are a bit more back and forth. But it feels like they're really finding their style the more they go further into the tournament. I think as well, looking forward, this Galio, it has to be shut down because it becomes so easy for them to actually play the game. Whenever mid lane's around and can just instantly collapse on bot side, it just becomes too easy for them to actually rotate around the map and actually never lose out on any tempo.
Yeah, and you know, not to look forward too far too quickly, but it just has to be a removal, I think, throughout the entirety of the finals.
Honestly.
It's such a problem.
But you can see it as well from the way they learned, because at first they were saving it for the second hand phase after the second ban phase, but then they got into the later stages in our series, and then they're like, no, we're just gonna third pick it. Like, there's no reason for us to even risk it getting taken away, and that's just what they do.
Yeah. Great performance by the Unicorns. You can see dismay. Commiserations, of course, for Heretics. Not being able to defend your title, especially against the new TCL, who just joined the EMEA Masters this year. Against the Istanbul Wildcats would have been a battle for the ages, but the Unicorns now stampeding their way to a title shot. You can see, you know, it's not as much jubilation as perhaps after their quarterfinals when Sheepy was on the floor because of how close those games were, but they still have a job to do. On Saturday, they have a game to play and a series to try and win the EMEA Masters Spring.
Job's not finished.
Yep.
Why should they be happy? Job's not finished.
I mean, they still won today. You can be happy
Yeah,
for like
you can
30
be happy.
seconds.
You can be happy for like 30 seconds.
You have a little bit of time where you can be happy, Jamada. This sad man over here. We're going to hand it over to someone who is happy. It's Sheepy.
And welcome back on this side of the studio for the Victory Lap. Before we dive into this series a bit deeper, we have Sheepy, the Victory Sheepy, with us to talk about this game and series. Sheepy, congrats. Thanks for joining us.
Bonjour, hello.
Bonjour.
Thank you for having us. For
Well,
having me.
finals, revenge also from the quarterfinals from last year against Heretics. First question, easy one. How do you feel right now? How are the players?
Man, I'm very, very happy. We've been working really hard this week, especially for the last game, because the Heretics likes to kill people. They drop always a lot of damage. And especially our carries, I was trying to like put into their head all the time that we have to know where's the enemy and what cooldowns they have. And they did it fantastically. So like I'm just, yeah, overjoyed.
And mentioning carries, honestly, massive props to Funky, especially for the responsibility he had throughout the entire series with the Jinx, other champions as well. Can you give me some insights on his communication, his mindset, and how he's taking on all these responsibilities as the main carry for the team?
I mean, his communication is I think he says the most important stuff and not more. And when if he's feeling good, he will ask a little bit more. So yeah, I think he likes to also listen to the rest of the team. He respects the call of everybody else. So sometimes he's like, I don't want to say something, you know, because there can be something. And yeah, he focuses a lot on his plays. But yeah, honestly, there was so much weight on his shoulders. Especially, I mean, his story is incredible. He went from the team that was last place and then exploded and doesn't exist anymore, from Penta over to our team, and then having like a star performance, won his first split, and then yeah, also now in the finals in EMEA Masters. I mean, yeah, he honestly an insane player.
Hi, Hippie. Congratulations again for the victory. I wanted to ask you a bit about your approach towards the Galio, because I kind of felt it was so important, the Galio, the way he pushed it towards the middle lane, and also supported. No matter where the fights happened, there was mask with the Galio. I want to know your thoughts about that pick and why, the insights that you, of course, you can give us onto that pick.
I mean, a lot of this information is, of course, classified, but I will open the black box a little bit and let you guys peek inside. We know that the enemy really likes to kill somebody, and that somebody is Funky. And so when they're picking something like Annie, especially Annie is very strong if she can focus a target, the carries, and if she has to focus the front line, it's not that much damage. She like kind of fizzles out. So we know that if we're picking the Galio and we have a Sejuani, it's like such a tanky, beefy frontline. So Annie just doesn't like to play the game. Wukong also wants to reach our backline, has to go through all of this tanky nonsense. Cassandra on top lane. So yeah, we're just picking those kind of champions to throw them in the way so that Funky in the back is like, guys, I'm alive. Maybe everybody else died, like we saw at the Nasher, but at least now I can carry that they have 0 cooldowns. So yeah, that was the game plan and kind of worked.
And maybe it can also work versus a certain someone's in the top lane, Kennen, for example, I'm just saying. Sheepy, again, congrats from me as well. I wanted to touch a little bit on what you said to Laura about Funky listening mainly to the other comms around the map. And I know you have a little bit of a soft spot for really talented Korean players, aka Ruby last year. Now you've got another mid jungle. How is the communication rolling with English in the team?
I mean, that was a hurdle for sure in the beginning, I will say. I had to try to motivate Mask and Peach to talk, especially Peach, because he is such a, I mean, happy person. He's just nice, and they're so fluffy, and I want to cuddle them all the time. But they don't talk that much. So I needed to make Peach like the killer that he is now in jungle. And yeah, so I go to them. I think they played phenomenally. Also, going from Korea over to Europe is always a jump. They are, after all, just people, you know, like, you know, you think always Korean import, but for me, I don't really see any difference to the other players. So It's yeah, they are just trying their best. They really stepped up their games as well. They feel confident, even though a lot of is foreign and communication is a struggle. But Mask has been helping Peach a lot. Now Peach is feeling really confident, and yeah, it's not my first rodeo with Koreans, so I could also help them a lot. And now we are like this cohesive mass that is working together really well.
And Shippy, congrats on always coming up with some of the best rosters that we've seen over in EROs, but also Div 1 with Unicorns of Love. Now I wanted to ask you, how does someone qualify to be on your roster? What is like your top criteria for choosing these people to get them in your team?
Look at her scouting.
Yeah, I mean, the scouting is incredibly hard. I've been doing it now for 10 years almost, and it's always a mix out of everything. I have to say I have a really great support staff. Sleet, our manager, is like a giga brain if it goes to recruiting as well. And Invi, my guy stuck in Moscow, is helping me all the time as well. So with that crew behind my back, I can like kind of go out into scouting, and then just insane amount of time that you have to spend like watching all of the replays, watching everything that's going on when they are playing in their scrims and communication, and then talking with agents and all this kind of stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, quality-wise, if you really want to be in this kind of team, the thing that for me is the most important, that you have the will and the drive to survive. Because I say to all of the players when they start joining our team that either you become the best or you get kicked out of the team. And yeah, so here we're on this way to. Yeah, but we had, of course, altercations. I don't know, like maybe that sounds so hardcore, but we had, of course, differences in opinions sometimes, and I had to make very clear. And there were potential times where people could have left the team, and they were fighting for it. And yeah, you can see the effort that they were putting in the end. So it's not an easy route that the guys have to take, but yeah, I think the most important thing is having the love for the game, being aware that I will push you a lot and then survive through it.
It's impossible not to love Unicorns of Love,
right?
Honestly, it's like totally impossible. I wanted to ask you a bit about that, honestly, because it's not only that the scouting, of course, it's important, but how do you manage, you know, to keep motivated these players, this roster after roster, keep being, you know, a successful brand, not only here in the EMEA Masters right now, also in the Prime League, in the former LCL. How do you manage, you know, because the split is so long and a lot of things may happen. How do you manage, you know, to handle all the situations and keep the roster together?
It's kind of, if you guys watched the anime Slime something, it's like I see what other people are doing and I'm like kind of copying it. So I have like unlimited energy from Romain Bijard. Because when I was starting the first time, I was like, you know, sleazy, and I was like introverted, and I was like not confident. So I was learning from this, and then from Hilly. Especially Hilly has been motivating. He won now the splits and he's winning everything over there. So I'm just like, I have to like, you know, step up. I cannot lose to my old comrades over from Unicorns. So, you know, from him I learned like speaking up for what you want, and you know, that you can ask for something and then you can be strict. Like if Hilly, people didn't trust Hilly, then he will go after them like, why didn't you trust me? Why don't you go in? You don't like me or something. And then yeah, and then of course I have my entire family behind me. My father is the CEO, my sister is the manager, and yeah, my mother is the mascot, the cheerleader, and they're all like supporting me. Joanna, like Merle, everybody's just helping me. Colin, our sports psychologist as well. I mean, I have this amazing staff around me, and yeah, I don't know, like everything just comes together and yeah, makes it a great experience, and that's why I also love League of Legends, and I think that helps as well.
Family business in the end at the end of the day, and you know, I've always been really admirative of everything you achieved over the years. You found success in the LCS back then. You found success in the Russian League. Now bringing the Prime League to their first finals in the last 3 years. Congratulations on that. That's a huge success, and I'm just wondering how you anticipate these finals to go on Saturday, but also what it means to you to find success once again with the Unicorns.
I mean, kind of confident, kind of not confident at all. I was tweeting about it before that. I sometimes feel like I have imposter syndrome, and I just feel like, you know, not good enough, especially if I see Hilly winning everything there. I'm like, you know, he's winning the finals and so on. Like maybe he was the reason a lot we won the games, and all of those kind of intrusive thoughts come in. So sometimes it gets a little bit heavy, but I think in the end, I just try always to focus on what I can do best and motivate the guys. And now, getting to finals is like, I think people who understand like how I feel, it's like you need constant like approval and pat on the back and kind of success achievements so that you feel like valuable. And yeah, so making it to finals just is a dream come true. And even if we didn't make it, at least I wanted my team to like really, like bite off the, like fight until the end. And I think they did that. So I think that's even more important than all the success. But yeah, of course, we'll go now into finals and win it.
Yeah, you guys have been fighting and you found success on top of that. Of course, we'll see you guys again on Saturday. But Shibi, thank you so much for dropping by tonight. Always a pleasure talking to you, as you know, and wishing you the best of luck in this this last best of 5 you will have.
Well, thank you very much as well.
Thank you so much. Au revoir and have a good evening. It's amazing. Year after year, team after team, league after league also, always finding success. That's a recipe that works.
Honestly, it's just great to see people who have succeeded so much in their lives doing something they love.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Also, admiring, of course, themselves for what they've reached, but also show you the true human side and the element of being in a competitive environment. He says, hey, I started in the same team as Healy. Healy has won this. I've fallen behind. Was he maybe the reason I was winning? And I feel like in this very fast-paced competitive environment, sometimes giving a pat on your back that you've done well, and he's done well in whichever team he has coached, in whichever team he had played back then, he did well. And he deserves this, and Unicorns of Love deserve this, and Prime League deserves this.
Definitely.
Because ever since Prime League was blessed with unicorns, they've gotten semifinals, they've gotten finals now, and maybe win the whole thing and just bring some glory back from the big days.
Yeah, definitely. Something I want to highlight about Unicorns of Love is that if you check their last splits back after they went away from the former EU LCS, they have won almost everything.
Yeah.
Almost everything. Titles in the LCL. They turned themselves into that powerhouse in that region. And when they shifted their focus towards the Prime League, they become fast that powerhouse again in the German region. It is amazing. I honestly admire that capacity they do have to become great at the competition they are competing. And now another finals for the German region. The last ones were in 2020. Let's see what happens.
It's inspiring indeed. We'll get to that a bit later, but I'm sorry, bringing back the topics on the bad news and addressing the elephant in the room. Noah, I'm sorry. You join me on the loser side.
It doesn't mean you.
But I just want to know, as the expert, of course, of this league, knowing this team, what was the defining element from this series of Heretics missing out on their back-to-back finals?
You know, every single time I come here, I always want to be clear that I'm not an analyst. In fact, back at home, I'm a play-by-play, so I speak a lot about how I feel.
And that's great.
I feel the games. So this is my feeling towards this series. We were discussing in the pre-show how Heretics evolved since that Heretics that was, you know, kind of off ideas in the final series versus Movistar Riders back in Spain. How that Heretics evolved into the former dominant team, but I got to see again that Heretics with no ideas, going again and again after, you know, the same compositions, the same plans, the same bans with the Saya Rakan, being afraid of that Saya pick, which I respect. They were afraid, but they honestly, I think they are talented enough to deal with that. I would love to see, again, the energetic Heretics that we got to see last year in Summer Split. But on the other side, spring was never our season.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, scaling the LFL season.
Scaling to summer.
Okay, moving on. No, you know what? We will come back. We will come back in summer. But of course, celebration of the winners here and the teams we will have in the finals playing on Saturday. Of course, a TCL representative. Istanbul Wildcats will be facing off against the Unicorns of Love Sexy Edition. I love this name.
The Sexy Edition.
Yeah, it's a great name.
It's a spicy edition,
but,
baby.
As you girls were saying, the Prime League comes back.
Yeah.
Since 2020, we haven't seen this region in finals. They had 2 teams in semifinals this spring. improvement from the region as a whole.
I just want to say that the last time Prime League went in the finals, back in 2020, they faced a super team of a Go Rogue, of Ultraliga, where 4 out of 5 players of that team
ended up in the LEC,
instantly ended up in the LEC next season. And right now, I think it's no different because a TCL team is waiting for them in the finals. This could be an MSI team. The TCL just got taken their shit away. They got put in EMEA Masters. They're showing that they're dominated, but let's not lie to ourselves. This could be an MSI team, a Worlds team that now Unicorns are going to have to face. And honestly, with the experience of Sheepy, having gone to Worlds and all that, maybe it's a very fitting finals we're having here.
It's a beautiful matchup, that's for sure. But for me, TCL was expected as one of the strongest regions we had at EMEA Masters this year. But what about Prime League and their journey throughout the entire competition, Noah? How do you reflect?
I don't want to take advantage of the situation, but I remember myself when I was casting in Spain saying, you need to be aware of the Prime League teams. The rosters, both rosters, were crazy. And I always said that you need to be aware of the Prime League. I always defended somehow that the ERL, it's all about eras. Sometimes we were up, sometimes it was Alpha up, sometimes NLC was shining, and they are, it's a cycle all the time. Now it's a Prime League cycle. But no matter what, TCL is going to be there. It's about how are these guys not expected to win if they had a seeding to Worlds and MSI not so long ago. These are teams that want to prove that they deserve back that spot into the international big competitions. Now, the question is the ERL, the former ERL, the Prime League from life, being able to face them? To face all that power? Because for me, it's absolutely crazy. We're talking ERLs versus a team that could, as you said, go to MSI.
It's a tricky thing. Predictions, Trouble?
It's okay. I'm just gonna sit here and propose maybe a plain seed for EMEA Masters winners.
Yeah, watch social media go on fire now.
I'm kidding, of course. I'm kidding, of course. But it's so cool because Unicorns of Law have been to Worlds before. Wildcats have been to Worlds and MSI
before. Is that
before.
flavor, right?
We have an international sort of final at EMEA Masters, and I'm very excited to watch that. I hope it goes all 5 games. We deserve 5 games.
Banger finals. I hope it goes to 5 games.
Definitely.
I think we're gonna jinx it if we say we think it will go to 5 games, but we will see that in just a couple days. Ladies, I want to say it's been an honor and a pleasure sharing the desk and the studio with you today. I don't think it's something we've ever done before in this setting, so it was really cool. And I hope you guys at home enjoyed it as much as we did. We will see you back for the finals in a couple days. Noah and Trouble, thank you so much again.
Thank you.
And see you soon, guys.